Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of CampusCare EdTalks. EdTalks is a platform where educators and leaders come on board and express their viewpoints related to education and society. And today we have with us Miss Indu Sharma, Principal of Sundardeep World School, who's going to talk about student expulsion, suspension, or expulsion. Does it help? A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. So good to have you here.
Same here. Pleasure is all mine.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, to put across the very first thing that I would like to, ask you is what are the effective ways of maintaining decorum at school?
School is all about maintaining decorum. The moment a child enters the school, we teach the child, apart from so many academics and other things, how to live in a disciplined manner. It begins, the first step, I think, is to keep the children busy. Uh, as and when they are free, as they grow, as and when they are free, they find some time, some moments to create indiscipline, chaos, disturbance in the school system. So, first and foremost thing is the children should be busy for the entire day. Productive, academics, activities, events, functions, they should be busy. And same goes with the staff members also. Everybody has to be busy with occupied with some work. They don't even think about indiscipline. They should be tired when they go home with lot of things in their mind. That way, they will not even think about getting indiscipline. Apart from this, we have certain strict protocols for their conduct in the school, how they have to conduct themselves, walk, mannerism, the way they talk, and we keep a check. There has to be a check on the behaviorism of the children. This has to be a continuous process. You just can't from the discipline, the decorum. You have to give a very clear instruction right at that point what we expect the students to do. And then, being a small, they are very young, they are small. So we handle them repeatedly. So maintaining discipline, maintaining a decorum, how they conduct themselves, assembly is one area where we can keep on emphasizing on what we are expecting the children to do. Then again, there are certain issues like bullying and gender-based harassment. There we follow zero tolerance policy. So if we are having certain cases of bullying a child or there's some getting some kind of pressure to do something or any kind of harassment related to a particular gender or amongst the same gender, so the zero tolerance policy take very strict actions, and this has been very clearly conveyed to both students, parents, teachers. All the stakeholders are aware of all these policies that in certain areas school will not take any kind of excuse. And another way of maintaining decorum, I feel, is involving parents, updating them about their child's behavior, if at all it is going off the track. So, parent is one of the major stakeholders. They have a very important role when it comes to maintaining the discipline of the school because the child stays with us only for certain hours in a day. Actual thing, the actual behavior is what he gets from the home. And if that is not polished, if that is not nurtured properly, then it reflects in the school. So, involving parents for their child's behavior is a very important aspect. This is how using 3, 4 points policy ensure that the school remains in discipline.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, do you agree with the suspension or expulsion policy, wherein should students get counseling or warnings before getting the severe punishment, or is this a punishment actually solving the purpose?
Counseling. We start from counseling. The word you said, counseling is an ongoing process. The level may go high or low, and counseling starts from class teachers in the school. We decide that daily a class teacher will talk to her children, his or her children, for at least 15 minutes in a day. Talk to them at personal level, understand any problem they are going through, anything which is hampering the child's normal progress. So counseling starts from the class teacher. If class teacher identifies some issues, parents, as I said, they are involved. Then to principal, the matter is brought to the principal. Rarely it happens, just a second. Rarely it happens that we require a proper, clinical psychologist or counselor. So counseling, we all are counselors, and yes, a counseling is very important at every stage in life. And it is not only for the child. If a child is indisciplined, let's remember, as I said earlier, whatever child is doing in the school is a little reflection of what he is learning at home as well. So when it comes to counseling, it's child's counseling, parents' counseling, and sometimes a teacher's counseling as well. Counseling plays a very important role, and we do it. It's as I said, it's a continuous process. So it happens not, and when the situation gets severe, out of control, in that case, we go for professional counseling. And when you talk about suspension, expulsion, I think that is the last resort. But it is needed sometimes. I won't say it is not needed. I won't say that in my entire career of 28 years, I have not seen suspensions or expulsions. We need to do. When the water rises above the level, we have to set an example for others not to repeat such certain kind of behavior. So yes, everything is needed. Counseling is needed on regular basis. It's a continuous process. Suspension and expulsions, they are very last resorts which we move to when we see there is nothing else we can do with the child. So it's a balanced kind of thing. We need all the ingredients to make a dish.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, what do you think? So, like you currently said that in your experience you have taken certain decisions which were hard to take. So, ma'am, what do you think? Students, is there any shift or is there any change in the behavior when somebody has seen a harsh punishment like this? So, when the student comes back, so either whether it's a suspension, so student can only come back when it's a suspension kind of a scenario. Expulsion is the last resort to everything. So have you seen any behavioral change or the way they are conducting themselves or any certain shift towards their
Yes,
attitude?
yes, it happens. See, number one, we have to understand suspension doesn't happen daily.
Right.
Okay. So it happens, I think, once or rarely twice a year to someone. When this happens, we have to make sure that the fellow friends, peer group of that particular child is aware that your friend, your classmate is being suspended for this behavior. The whole idea of suspension is number one, to isolate the child. When the behavior is getting aggressive, unmanageable, you have to isolate. Otherwise, it will infect others. It will motivate others. It will even inspire. See, negative things inspire us quicker than positive aspects,
Absolutely.
things. So the idea of suspension is not to punish the child. For me, the idea of suspension is to isolate the child. Stay away from us for some time period. Have some self introspection. Think about yourself, what you are doing with your life. So this makes a change. And second thing with suspension, a major thing which is happening in children, which I have observed, is FOMO, fear of missing out. What is class? Which what activities are going on in the school? I'm missing. I want to come back. And when suppose, luckily, if there is some major event happening in the school when a child is suspended, a child literally begs that, ma'am, let me get inside the school. I'll ensure a proper behavior. I'll ensure that I won't repeat it. So there is a positive change. A child feels, highlighted for a wrong reason. A child feels that he's missing out a lot of activities happening in the school and because of his own behavior. So, yes, a child is apologetic, and that is how you handle suspension. It doesn't have to be aggressive. A suspension has to happen in collaboration with counseling. So you don't have to shout at the child aggressively and tell you are being suspended, stay out of the school. You have to tell you are being suspended because you have to do some kind of self introspection. You have to find where are the key areas where you need to work. So sit at home, relax, think about yourself, what is going wrong, give us some time, then come back. So that way child gets a little positive this thing. But then having said this, I have seen cases where parents, in spite of giving the suspension letter, they call us and say, don't make the child sit at home. The child will the child will have absolutely nothing to do. The child will only sit in front of mobile or screens. So, in case you want to suspend the child, make sure the child is isolated in the school only, not making the child sit at home, especially in the cases where both the parents are working. So, it has pros, cons, lot many aspects to it. Suspension.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, do you think suspension or expulsion of the students is a correct way to handle situations breaching the code of conduct?
At times, it doesn't have, see, it doesn't have a concrete yes or no. Suspension can have positive impact. Suspension can have a negative impact. So you can't say yes, it is the right. There is no yes, right or wrong. You cannot take it or just cross it. You have to handle already when we reach the level where a child has to be suspended. So we have to understand the case is very sensitive. As I said in the beginning, we don't suspend daily. We don't do it oftenly. We have to wait to reach a certain level before we suspend a child. So, is it a right way or wrong way? It's a very delicate question. Sometimes it may misfire. Sometimes it may hit the target, what we are wanting to do. But yes, it is required. I won't say. Maybe there are other leaders who will, veto it and say, no, it is not the right way. It is the right way. And the way it is handled and why a child is being suspended, the gravity of the indiscipline, behavioral issue, we have to take everything into account and then decide is the suspension last resort. And in that case, if all the stakeholders, teachers, parents, principal, child, comes to a conclusion, yes, it is the only resort left, then it is a right way. So it has to be handled very delicately because is ordered or suspension is orders are given only in very sensitive and delicate cases. So, but it is needed. I'll say it is needed at times. Because once in a year, one child has to be suspended to maintain discipline of the school.
Really, ma'am, is that the case? So, ma'am, other than suspension or expulsion, do you think detention is the right step to deal with the students breaking the rules? So, for example, if you see a lot of schools have, I mean, not in India, I am not prevalent about India, but yeah, in a lot of Western world, there is a way that they create a detention center or they give certain activities in the name of detention wherein they are supposed to get into that work zone, not doing anything which is related to the regular school or classes. Rather they are doing something which is creating
Helpful
some.
to society or community help or see the again we
Right.
come back to the same point. The idea is to isolate the child.
Right.
But as I said, many parents are not in favor of suspension. They say the child left at home will move to mobile screens, laptops, and all this stuff. So now two aspects: isolate the child, but keeping the child busy, channelizing the energies. Okay. So again, we as head of institutions have to think a lot that we have to ensure the child is isolated, but a child is not at home and again thinking some mischievous things. So keep the child engaged, but then we also want to ensure the child doesn't enter the classroom once again in a short duration. So keep him busy with some kind of activity. So second thing, one aspect is this: we have to channelize the energy. We have to find it is in a way to locate, identify where a child finds peace. You know, sometimes we all talk about suspension, detention, counseling. Where is the issue? The child is not at peace with himself. You know, talking to parents, as we say, talking to the class teachers, ultimately we have to come to a point what is lacking in us or parents. Somewhere something has been missed out, some gap has to be filled. Why a child is behaving in such an improper manner. So the idea is finding where a child finds his peace. maybe in community work, maybe in gardening, maybe in painting, maybe in teaching others, training others. We have to bring his mental level at peace. This is not a punishment, this, and we also do sometimes. This is what we call hobby in a very modern nomenclature. We call term it as a hobby or some our free time practices. But the whole idea centrally comes down to one point: where is the peace? Why a child? We have to find out why a child is aggressive, why a child is not listening to us after repeated instructions or repeated. You can say. We have to tell the child again and again. So, in spite of repeated warning, if the child is not behaving properly, so the idea is not the punishment. The word detention is wrong. We have to locate his weak area and where we have to work on. So, channelize his energy in different ways so that okay, now he's doing painting, he's doing one job at least, he's doing peacefully. So that means here he finds his peace. So that is a very different way of handling the situation. We may not always call it punishment, it's not always a punishment. Even suspension at times is not a punishment. When we isolate the child, we give the child time to think about. And also, we feel when you are alone, having my time kind of thing, you find where is maybe there is some issue in the school, somebody bullying him and he's misbehaving, or some past experiences. So, suspension, in a way, if you take it as punishment, it's very negative. If you take it as positive thing that we have isolated, let the child introspect and think about himself. So they are not punishments. Detention, as you said, making a child do some kind of community service, that's not a punishment. That's another way of handling child counseling, keeping the child busy, finding his peace area. That's it. When we
Absolutely.
don't endorse any kind of physical punishment. See, we all have been trained not to endorse any kind of physical punishment. Then we have to strike somewhere at the mind, of the child. We have to bring the solution from the thinking process of the child. So the
Absolutely.
whole idea of it comes there.
Yeah, absolutely, ma'am. So, yeah, what I remember when I was in my school, that suspension or expulsion will create a red mark in your mark sheet, or I don't know which document when we'll cross and go beyond school life. So for us, it was that scary. So the only reason we never wanted suspension and expulsion was that red dot somewhere in your some documents of school. So I completely agree whether the suspension is not the last resort, and it's an expulsion obviously is something, a major step wherein you cannot go back to what actually has been in the activity, what has been created and what has happened
The
already.
expulsion is a very, very wrong
Harsh.
methodology if
Yeah,
anybody is using it, because you expel the child from your school. The child is bound to go somewhere else. So
absolutely.
without doing that repair work, you are just sending the child out in the streets. Wherever the child will go, he will create a problem here. So the whole idea is to do the mending and repairing at your level. You have to
Easy way
retain the
out.
child. You
Yeah,
have
so for
to
somebody or for some organization, if you don't want to do that repairing and mending and
Yes, somebody, who runs away from that repairing and mending things, then it's a very bad management, I must say. I will never ever recommend expulsion, because you're again throwing a highly misbehaved or indisciplined child on the streets, and some school will take it, some other institute will take it. The problem remains the same. It's only you will get rid of your problem, but we are basically working for children. We are
right.
not working for my home. My school is a very different place. You can't have my attitude over here. It's a complete set of children here. So you have to make sure every child comes out after 12 years, 14 years, neatly polished, well sculpted. So if you just because a clay is not getting molded as per you, you just throw it. Expulsion should not be there. The word expelling should be removed from the school curriculum or
Concept
school
altogether,
system.
right? Yeah, because end of the day, you aren't when anybody. So even if it's a school, even if it's a child, or even if it's a group of people who are being expelled, doesn't solve the purpose, the real purpose behind the
You are sending a
activity.
very hyper mismanaged child to the society once again. And if
Absolutely.
yours is a supposedly A category school, I'm sure some B categories, C category school will take it, which as it is will not be having all those equipments and methodologies to polish that child. So the problem remains the same. You're not
Absolutely.
doing any good to the child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then what I
Suspension
feel is,
is
at the back of your own mind, you are, somewhere lacking your own self, wherein you are not able to identify and help the child who was in need. So, majority of people are well disciplined, and there are handful of people or very few students, who require this sort
this
of
is what I said. Suspension
acknowledgement.
doesn't happen daily. This is what I said.
Right.
Suspension doesn't happen daily. It doesn't happen openly even. It happens only once in a year or once in 2 years, 3 years. Okay. So, I mean, it's not something which you come across such cases daily. But if you expel that child, just imagine a child of that level. Suspension at a very later stage in a child's case, after giving multiple chances, warnings, counselings. So, even in that case, the child is in such a bad situation, mental frame, and you expel the child. You are not doing anything good to the child, you are ruining the child further. So, expulsion is big no. Detention is a wrong word, let's say. Channelizing the energy in some other way is the right word. Making the child, keeping the child busy, channelizing the energy is right. Suspension has to happen in certain cases, rarely, to set an example, to make a child understand that he has done wrong. See, in my time, you are such a young child. In my time, suspensions were very frequently, happening. We used to have boys in our times used to have corporal punishment. They used to get those all stick and everything.
Right.
But eventually, we all were very nicely brought up children, ready
Absolutely.
to face the harshness of the world in a much better way than the children are now doing. In our
Absolutely.
times, there was no word like depression, traumatized. We had never heard. We can't even.
So have I,
We
man.
were
So if you talk about schools, and if you talk about schools which are, wherein we also, have come from, we never have heard these words. We never required these words, because at the end of the day, so there, I must say that over time, a lot of liberation has come into the, system wherein students aren't being hit by any teacher. There's a lot of, protection to a student, and there are a lot of restrictions of student and teacher relationship in that sense, wherein we come from.
very true.
We never had that deliberation. Maybe our parents were like,
You are
whatever is happening, even if your teacher is doing it, you must have done something wrong. So each time, even if I go
justice,
back
yeah.
home and try to complain ki this has happened,
Yeah.
my parents are like, you only must have done something
You
wrong.
must
They
have
have
done.
never,
I tell in every orientation, I tell the parents only one thing: trust the system. You have sent your child to me. You have to trust the system. Don't counter us. We are aware of what we are doing. Now I should not be criticizing. It's not a right platform. Parents get into the schooling of children.
right.
A very strong precedence. You know, many authorities taking care how a child has to be dealt in the school. The interpersonal bonding between a teacher and a child has taken a backseat. Everybody is scared to handle some kind of, naughty or some kind of special little hyper children. Nobody wants to put the fingers in that and burn the fingers. So
Correct.
that has not helped the child in any manner. It has only ruined the situation. That's what I said. Children are into depression. Why? Not because of the course material, not because of the academics, because they don't have anybody to talk to, because they don't feel comfortable. Everybody has to be prim prom, have all the best facilities, have all the best mobile phones, gadgets. The mad rush parents have created. Let them live freely, let them play in the sand, let them get wet in the rain. And let see uniform, the word school uniform means everybody is equal.
Absolutely.
Concept of uniform is uniformity, bringing a uniformity. Then why these high and lows? My child has to score A plus. My child has, if a child. So all these concepts, we are working on it as a position. At least in my school, I work on it. Do not focus too much on your child. Let the child enjoy the childhood. Adulthood will eventually come. The child will face the competition of the world. It's not going anywhere. So, in the beginning, let the child enjoy the childhood and let him speak, him or her, speak his mind out. There will not be any depression. We used to talk a lot, play a lot. I said in the beginning, my first thing was keep the child busy. He should go home tired. And when you are tired, you are hungry, you don't get into depression. All you think about is sleep and food. So our
Absolutely.
mantra is so
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
where comes the depression? Yeah.
Absolutely, ma'am. So with this note, wherein you have to only keep your child distracted, busy, and so tired that end of the day he's just thinking about food and sleep, and whatever homeworks or extracurriculars they have to complete and follow up with, is the way you deal with a child in this current situation and this scenario, wherein a lot has changed, a lot has altered, and a lot has been coming yet to come on our way. So with
Yeah.
this note, thank you so very much for having coming here and sharing your views and experiences on the topic, ma'am. It was really our pleasure to have you here, ma'am. Thank you so
Same,
very
same.
much, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.
So with this note, I, Sakshi, host of the show, would like to sign off. Have a great day and a great evening.